Welcome to another episode of Humanly Plausible with your hosts, Rolly and Richard from the Pink Collective.
Yeah.
People look at things differently. You look at things, like gaming.
Yeah.
With our kids.
Yeah.
Kids gaming isn't a problem. It's actually an engagement. You got to just embrace the engagement and use it in a positive way.
The military does. They look for gamers
Yeah.
now for the military.
Man. So, but see, I mean, just the thought of when we talk about the brand and but what you bring to the table from that leadership, perspective is huge. So, I mean, I think that's also, again, that's part of the culture and what we try to do and what we try to create. But tapping into that and spreading it like wildfire. So that video, you coming in there with
that's awesome. We may have to.
Set
it'd be
a tone.
funny if we cut it into the.
Oh no, we can show.
Are we
it.
on? Are we going on? Is it on?
Yeah, we're gonna go on. We're on right now.
Okay,
we're on.
I got it. I'm ready now.
Yeah.
I won't say anything foolish.
No, you're never saying anything foolish.
No, we're not going to incriminate or say anything.
No. Say anything that's even remotely controversial. Yeah,
guys, thank you for not tuning in, but you're already in. So. Rich, why don't you give the intro here with your buddy Josh, the mayor of Coconut Creek?
Well, we're very
Special
happy.
guest.
We're very happy to have today on Humanly Plausible to have someone that means a lot to me and means a lot to our community. This is Mayor Joshua Rydell, also an attorney at law, but he's the mayor of the wonderful city, the great city, the outstanding city, the exemplary city of Coconut Creek, Florida, of which I am a proud resident. And I was sharing with Rolly earlier. My relationship with Mayor Rydell is one in which there's certain layers to it, which I'm sure he'll share in terms of how we got to know each other. But I grew up in the Bronx, New York. The concept of me knowing my mayor or having coffee with my mayor at Starbucks the first time we hung out, and the mayor being the debate coach of my son.
He was telling me that story. That's
and he can expand upon that. Yeah. But we're really happy to have you here, and thank you, of course, for being here because part of Humanly Plausible and empowering positive brands is exposing our audience to what it takes for leadership, positive leadership, and you're the representative of the Coconut Creek brand, and everything that you do to make our city and a lot of different things better. So welcome to the show.
I appreciate it.
Well, the other thing, too, I'm definitely honored that we have a mayor. You're the first mayor on our podcast, so that's awesome. And, we appreciate your time for being here with us.
Definitely not the last.
I'll
take the first, definally not the last.
So you're the original, the pioneer. Yes, indeed.
So no more mayors on this show.
You tell me where you live, and we'll get that mayor here now.
No, man, I really dig you now, so I don't know.
Yeah. So
I'm in Pembroke Pines.
Yeah, but
that's easy.
That's easy. Also,
we can do that if you want to do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we may have to for fairness and balance. Yeah.
Anyway,
so why don't we just start off a little bit? Why don't you share with us your journey to where you are today, a little bit about yourself and how you got here as the mayor of Coconut Creek?
Yeah, an interesting story, just how I ended up in Florida. Born and bred in Buffalo, New York, undergraduate at University of Delaware. Both my grandparents were in Florida. Ironically, one set in Coconut Creek. So I'd been visiting Coconut Creek as a child, going to the township in the city of Coconut Creek. Prior to my grandparents being a little older and needing a little more help in facilities and things like that. That's how I ended up down here for law school. So came down for law school, realized, wow, you could see the beach every day. You don't have to see snow. People actually have skin under their clothes when you come to a place, well up north.
Yeah.
And fell in love with it and stayed here. My brother came down, my parents came down, and then I just, built a life down here, which was a good thing. Ended up as a criminal defense attorney, which is what I do professionally, which is unique because people are always, it's the dinner party conversation. Like, how do you represent somebody that did something so terrible? Or, hey, you got to have a good story. But they have those unique things. But at the end of the day, what I fell in love with was I did a couple of years as a public defender where you're representing, the poorest of the poor, the indigent people that need a break. And it's not about that guilt or innocence. It's about sometimes people just need help.
Yeah.
And I've always had that panging need to help people, whether it's helping your community, whether it's helping people professionally, whether it's trying to build people up, motivate people. So that kind of led me down this journey to end up running for elected office. Winning back in 2015, I was 33. I was one of the younger elected officials in kind of the history of Broward County at that time. Now we have a lot more younger elected officials. And kind of trying to bring some more, we'll call them different generational thoughts and arguments and engagements to the forefront. Especially you look at the city of Coconut Creek, and we're not talking about that, but in the past 15 years, the median age in the city has gone down almost 15 years. So just think what that means for just a community.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right. I didn't even realize that.
A major demographic shift to, more of the older retirement demographic down to your young family demographic.
Which is my perception.
Yeah.
So it changes how we can engage. And it also changes because the best question, and this is really why I love being an elected official, is how can you make government work for you? How can we as government help you? Which is ironically what led me to Richard early on, because he's been an amazing facilitator for some of the things we're doing in the city. Another thing coming up in like 3 weeks that you're helping us with.
Yeah, well, Pink, we're going to be supporting the Small Business Academy in Coconut Creek. Do you want to share a little bit about that, how that came to be and what it means?
Totally. After COVID, you try to think, how can we help our businesses? When I guess we can get into the story of how I know you, Richard,
go
before,
right ahead,
but we can
good segue.
Start later to that.
Yeah.
But I guess the answer is, how can we build up our businesses? How do people realize that if you're going to be a successful brand, you're going to be a successful business, you're going to be a good corporate resident, you got to give back.
Yeah.
You have to engage. You have to be positive, because the people that do that end up successful. And I don't think businesses are trained to think like that. I think your really successful ones do. And I say it because I have that concept in I'm a single practitioner, so I have a brand that's me in my professional career.
Sure.
But it's if I was to globalize that, I would have to shift a lot of different things. But I like being in my little world and helping the people I can help professionally.
Right.
But it changes with government, and we have the ability to change that. I think something you and I connected on is this concept of really motivating local businesses to engage in their community, which will only build them up.
Yeah, it was interesting because, once again, feeling comfortable and having access to the mayor of my city, and I had an idea, because as we had created an empowering brand, I remember talking to Rolly about it. One of the things we felt that we could give back, because part of the way we support our clients is always telling them, find a way to give back to your community as part of your brand proposition. So what can we do? So I remember I said, hey, Josh, with some of the small businesses in Coconut Creek, which are the backbone of the economic driving, and being able to support them and some of their business practices to help them become more successful and sustainable. How can we help? Because I know, Pink, we'd love to jump in and help and do seminars on marketing and advertising.
We did that with the city of Hollywood. I mean, we're still in effect with them, but we connected with the city of Hollywood to help them with small businesses, because again, when Pink was started after my first business. My first business was a disaster at 24 years old. So I had no idea how to start a business. As far as resources, I didn't know anything. So all I knew was that I got to go make money. And so one of the things that we did with the city of Hollywood is that we started that startup competition, Spark. And that was in conjunction with the Chamber of Hollywood. And what led me there was really when we first moved to Hollywood, my goal was to, how do I connect with the city, and obviously with the businesses, but that led me down to a path of, there's folks that could use help. And then that started to then create more opportunities, better relationships. It just started to spawn a whole different world that I had never even thought of, which is the positive aspect of it.
And then, so I shared it with Josh, and it was like, let's make it happen. And you can pick.
Well, the Spark program is something we would love to model as a city.
Yeah. Literally, we can.
We intend to.
Okay.
So step one is this first step of, listen, we're a demographically different city, a little under 60,000 residents.
Yeah.
More smaller structure. Industrial park, different types of businesses. But the reality is, how do you engage your businesses? So we kind of step one is this jumpstart program we're doing for Coconut Creek businesses, a small business academy. Yeah. So we're essentially sponsoring a half day, food, drinks. Educators to come in, and people that we have engaged with that are coming and just saying, hey, here's how you can be better. Here's how you can not only brand better, here's how you can engage in your community. Because if you engage in your community, you will be successful. 100%. It's not you may be successful, it's you will be successful. It just is, people don't sometimes see that.
Yeah.
They get so caught up in, making sure they make enough money for that week. They get so caught up in their life that they don't see the bigger picture of trying to affect more change your community, because that's what pays the
exactly. And a big part of that engagement is the listening aspect, because again, part of our job is we need to listen as to what our clients are saying. But one of the things that we learned in connecting with the city of Hollywood is we connected with the director of economic development and just listening to what the needs were there as far as the businesses. That kind of led Spark. But and again, in Coconut Creek, it's not going to be the same scenario, but understanding what those businesses are in need of will then create opportunities that, another version of a Spark.
And I think, that sense of community is one of the things that I enjoy most about Coconut Creek. And, the mom and pop restaurant, the dry cleaners, in today's economic landscape, you have the big box brands and then you have online. So we never, I feel, want to lose the connection with our homegrown businesses. And we really want to empower them to be successful and be the destination of choice.
So how is the Coconut Creek vibe? Tell me from your perspective.
Very connected. Let me tell you something.
Tell me.
And this is something that I'm going to keep it real, which is things that I think about because of where I grew up.
You have to keep it real. That's
part of course. One of the things that I noticed the most about Coconut Creek was when I first got there, when I saw police officer or police cars, it was a welcoming sight. And you have to understand this. I am totally a law enforcement. I support law enforcement, but I grew up in New York during the Giuliani administration. Not to get too political, but thrown up against walls for no reason. The relationship between our community in the Bronx and police was a lot of times adversarial. That doesn't go on everywhere, but at least the way I grew up with a different perception of my relationship with law enforcement and how they viewed me. Even being educated, even being somewhere, it was still, there wasn't that. And that was one of the first things I noticed, that it was after one of our storms and a police officer drove by and stopped. I was outside, picking up some debris. They stopped and they got out. How you doing? Is everything okay? Did you lose any power? Did you do? And it was just such a wonderful, and that's when I knew we moved to the right place. Then I started coaching baseball, basketball, football. My son, benefited from everything. He worked at the local Publix. And that's how, in a sense, I got to know Mayor Rydell. Josh, is that, and you can say how you met Justin, and then we connected the dots.
I came from a harder growing up, right? So you look for things when you're a kid to grasp onto that you want to do in the future. And something I grasped onto early on was speech and debate and these types of programs that I loved in school. That, I wasn't always this loudmouth guy that, my wife mocks it, that I can get in front of a room and just talk and be okay and people listen. They see it. But that it didn't happen overnight. Like, certain people have the ability to do that.
Right.
But being able to actually effectively connect and engage, it's craft.
It is.
It's a craft that does get developed. So I started with this craft, and then I knew that, wow, I like this. It was something good to me, and I fell in love with the program I did in high school. So then you go to college, and you go to law school, and you start working through it. And then to me, my passion was always teaching. So how did it end up? I had my first baby. Rachel was my older daughter was, I think, just born. And I approached, one of the local high schools, and I essentially go, hey, I got this great idea for a program. What do you say? And after some vetting, they're like, give it a try. So ironically, Justin, your son, was in my inaugural class that we hosted essentially a mock trial, a competitive team in the whole county. So I took a group of kids that knew nothing about the law and made them lawyers and witnesses, and we competed against other schools. And, it's the shameless plug that, your son was like the best of the best, but proud father moment, right?
Proud father
but knowing
moment.
Justin, he must have been like in heaven in that group.
I'm going to, this is how connected this story is to being humanly plausible. Well, Justin is now working at a law firm on his way to law school. So that intervention made his career path plausible, not just possible.
Right.
Yeah, so, this is the kind of intervention, hey, I mean, you're busy, but you took time to do that.
Right, he didn't have to do that.
Why? What was your why? Why do you keep finding ways to give?
That's I got a lot of different whys.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
The highlight of the teaching prong of what I do is, aside from your family, you're obviously running home and seeing my kids is the highlight of my life.
Yes, sir.
But what's the second highlight? Is going to teach once a week for almost 2 hours every week at the end of the day. Knowing that it's away from my family, but teaching a group of high school kids and watching them develop and grow and engage and learn. Give you an example. This summer, I had, from the year after Justin, young lady, just graduated college. So we're going back 4 years. 4 years, just graduated. She's starting law school in the fall. She spent a summer at my law office. And she's brilliant. And she thought she wanted to be a doctor. And she's going to law school. Now, she may not be a lawyer, because I tell all these kids, listen, my 5 best friends in law school, only one of them is practicing law, and it's me. Wow. The other 4 are doing amazing different business ventures. But they have that educational background to help them. Yeah. Right. But that's the highlight. Teaching kids and watching a sophomore young man that is so uncomfortable find his voice and be able to capture a room in just 2 years. Wow. That's the thing that you're really making a difference. And to me, if I could give it all up and the world was different, I would teach. That would be something that would just make me happy. And I think, regrettably, in this climate, we've lost a little bit of that. Yeah. But then you just think of other ways you can give back. So that was, that's my why on that, is because if we're not doing something for our kids, we're not doing anything for the world. So we need to engage and do something for our kids. And professionally, and why I do things like this, and why I'll come and I engage with everybody, my real why is a moniker that through a workshop about 5-6 years ago I came up with, was Imagine No Strangers. So that's a why.
Wow, we holding on to that.
Drop
one.
the mic, just throw it.
Yeah,
so
Imagine No Strangers.
I sat through a couple days seminar just hashing out. I'm telling you guys something that you live, breathe, and preach. But you kind of unravel all these things about you of why you try to do what you do. What's your why? I mean, it's become very mainstream now, but years ago it wasn't. But what's your why? And the why to me, and all these, whether it's the lawyer, whether it's the teacher, whether it's the elected official, whether it's the father, it's Imagine No Strangers. Imagine the world if there was Imagine No Strangers.
That is humanly plausible. We're out.
Absolutely. And how does that mindset affect the way you lead?
I think we need to get that hashtag going too.
I think so. We may have to incorporate that one. Because that's the one that makes you just think about a world like that. Yeah, which is amazing.
Well, half of the time, I tell Richard a lot is that I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes when we're talking about positive this and positive that, and how you can be an effective business leader by not just yelling at folks and telling them what to do, but being there, listening, being proactive, and so when you speak like that, and then now we're encountering that more because now people are understanding. Wow, there's something there, and again, the conversation about the why has really pushed that forward. But it's awesome to hear. Like, so when you speak like that, to hear somebody at your level doing the things that you do, and you still have an open heart for that. That's power.
And before we go out the box, I just wanted to...
Yeah, we're never going to get to the box at this point. We're going to run the whole show. No, but we have to get...
We'll tell you what out the box is, but he's like...
That's where you jump out of a box now.
Yeah, so...
I have that picture in my house, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. He's perfect. He's perfect for
I
us.
know he is. I think he needs to be a host.
How does that mindset influence the way you view leadership of the city?
I think that mindset changes how we have traditionally thought government works for us. So if I was to be locked into the traditional government role of just being this elected official and just going to meetings and doing that, I wouldn't want the job. I only want this job. Truthfully, I only want this job to try to positively affect the community. And the minute I'm not doing that anymore is the minute I'm not doing the job anymore. Right. Is the minute I don't want the job anymore. Right. Because if you have that mindset of how can government, a good example, we've never done anything with a small business before. So the city is embracing this, saying, let us help you. Let's use our city resources to help you. Let's use our social media to pump up local businesses. Let's use our nonprofits to pump up our kids. Yeah. We have a program in the city called Do the Right Thing where we celebrate kids that do the right thing.
Yeah, the Do the Right Thing is a big thing.
My kids hate the news. Do you know why they hate the news? Because it sucks. Yeah. You watch tonight in the news? Oh, it's shitty.
I had to stop watching.
Am I allowed to say that?
It's
shitty. It's a
we're
all right.
18 and over.
But it's shitty.
Yeah.
There's nothing inspiring about that. But imagine once a week. I'd love for you guys to come to one of these programs. It's heartwarming.
It'd be awesome.
We celebrate kids that do the right thing. Yeah. To go back to what you said about the police department, it's a police department funded program.
100%.
That we celebrate once a month. Kids in our schools that do the right thing. They come and they get awarded and they get clapped and we read their narratives and their parents come. That's changing the mindset. Community policing. I don't want to go on a rant about that, but we've tried to lead it in Coconut Creek. This concept of community policing, which candidly I'm an advocate for because I've defended. I've been in the trenches. Yes. I know this stigma. I've seen it firsthand. Right. Yeah. So if you can actually have a forward-thinking police department that says, "Hey, we're going to get out. We're going to help you. We're going to engage. We're going to, we want." So it's that mindset that allows me to keep doing it. It's that mindset that wants me to do really creative things like. Bringing up, we're going to have official city poet. I said it before we started. Like, it's pretty cool that from now on at every city event, a woman's
embracing
gonna
the
get
arts.
up.
Yeah,
You know, she's a BC professor, a Broward College professor that lives in Coconut Creek, teach English, all these things.
That's
great
culture,
community activist.
Culture.
But to stand up at all our events and read a poem and to inspire maybe my 7-year-old to write a poem, to want to do that. That's the Imagine No Strangers. 2 kids reading a poem that don't know each other, that connect on something that transcends government and politics and race and religion, that just connect.
Wow.
So these concepts are not really utopic because you're actually making these things happen within your city.
And I want to make that's what I want to make clear is that that's happening already. Like what you're talking about is actionable. There are things that, again, because like I said, sometimes we have these conversations and people think like, how are we going to achieve all that stuff? You're doing it. So it's happening.
Trying.
You're trying.
Listen,
you're
as long as you're trying, you have
Absolutely.
100%. And I think it definitely impacts every part of that city and every touch point because it just seems that throughout the city, that's what you feel. So, that's amazing. So,
all right, let's go
we'll
to
out
the
the
box.
box.
Let's go to the box.
So,
let's go to the box.
So, Josh, this is out the box.
All right.
We have a list. We have random questions in here. We don't know which one you're going to
We don't know what's happening.
Peanut butter jelly.
It's about,
That's a good one.
Which one?
No.
So,
I should ask more random questions like that.
So, basically, you're going to pull one out.
So, we've been writing stuff for a while now, so we don't know what's in there.
Do I get to pick it?
Yeah, you're going to pick
Anyone?
it.
Any question?
Any question.
This is like the...
But you can't look. Don't look. What are you doing?
No, I'm just looking at the...
Yeah,
this is an off-color piece of paper.
See, you can see he's an attorney, right?
Yeah.
He's like...
This looks a little older. Could be one of the original questions.
He's
We're gonna go with
it like evidence, you know what I mean?
All right. In a post-COVID world, are people still networking as often? Oh, it's such a good question. I was at one of the first breakfasts I've been to at a chamber event. You want to put it back?
No.
No.
Is there more questions coming?
No, that's
No.
This is so you can take
build.
that however you want. So it's it's kind of open.
I think networking has been redefined.
Yeah,
I think it's hurt government because I think it's hurt government because in government you're supposed to be the most protected, right? So in government you got to be the ones taking protocols. You got to be the ones looking at things in that bubble of safety, right?
Wow,
and public
okay.
safety. But do I believe networking is hurt? I don't think it's hurt. I think it's changed, and I don't think if you've caught up to it, you're missing the boat. So I think certain people have fallen off the networking world in post-COVID. I think certain people have re-engaged in post-COVID. So I think it's adaptability.
Yeah.
And so another question from that one is as far as networking, what's the importance of networking? Just in like when it comes to business that we've been talking about business, obviously, but
in what capacity? That's
right. So
I say it in a couple capacities because like me networking professionally is like going to bars and restaurants and like law firms that don't do criminal law and engaging with people that I know will have clients that will need me one day, right? So that's one side of the coin. That's why networking is important, I think, professionally, but business to business is, and I say that only because I think your traditional sense of networking is let's take your BNI group. Let's take your, any of those organizations, your chambers, for lack of a better term, too, that just bring people together. Now, do they provide value? I mean, it's yes and no.
Yeah, we've had this discussion.
I think yes and no, but the reality is it allows at least the connectivity of connecting people to provide value. So you go to these events, and at least it does, hey, I need this one day. Oh, I met a guy. Here's the card, and I could do it. So I think that's old school networking.
Yes.
Not new school networking.
So...
New school networking is somebody that writes something on Instagram or sees a video that they need something, and you're DMing them saying, call my buddy so-and-so. That's modern day networking.
Good point.
How do you think the networking process or the networking mentality could be refined to realize your Imagine No Strangers mentality?
I think government has a huge...
Damn, look at this guy.
I think government has the ability to have a huge stake in that.
Yeah.
I think if us as government facilitate, and this is the ultimate hard question in government, how can you justify supporting some businesses and not others? Right? Can we justify in government only supporting the people that come to the meeting as opposed to the people that don't? That's the weighing test because it's favoritism at that point. I don't mean it in an intentional way. I mean it in an unintentional way. So the answering true networking can Imagine No Strangers because it gives you the ability of just widening your network so much.
Right.
But the problem is people are closed-minded with things like that. So when you look at a chamber, they only want you making those connections in those, for lack of a better term, jurisdictional boundaries. Right? So like you're a Hollywood-based business, you're going to be looked down upon when you go.
Now.
Okay, no, but I say it from you go to Palm Beach County in Boca and you're trying to pitch networking business. They're going to be like, well, why do we want to do business with you? We're going to do business in Boca.
Right.
You know, I think we're still hammered on some of those old stigmas. I think we have to get over that. I think boundaries have only hurt us in so many ways.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, at least for me, like I had the old school mentality many years ago for networking where it was just like business cards to everybody and then hope for the best. But it wasn't until I started to change that mindset to more like I want to listen and at least meet someone. So it wasn't about going and working the room for 50 people that I'm not going to remember any conversation, but focus on one or two that I knew. So it's almost like leave the business cards at home and try to go remember somebody. So the idea of, no strangers to me is like, wow, that hits me right. I get it. It makes total sense.
It's funny. I was at the first Coral Springs Coconut Creek Chamber breakfast this week, and I was asked to speak, to do an introduction speech, and that's exactly what I said. I go, I know we're here to network. I know we're here to pass business cards, but I have one request. Connect with one person in this room today that and I want you to go out of your way and help that person. I can't tell you how you're going to do it. Right. But really connect with one person and make a promise to yourself to connect and help them.
Right.
I don't know if it happened, but I mean, the message, because people also, networking do that. They want to go to, and some people think that that's value.
Wow.
It could be, it could not be, depending on what your business is.
Right.
Do you think that you have an exceptional vision of the value of connections, especially because you're an elected official and the need to connect through campaigning with your potential constituents, and then when you do get into office, staying connected to those constituents? Does the value of connections, is that amplified in your role?
1,000%, but I also think it's hindered a little bit by modern day social media. And I say that only because this is immediate access, everything. Somebody writes something on a Facebook page and tags me in it. They're expecting an immediate response from their local elected official. Right. It's really hard to stay on top of that. And it's really hard to prevent the snowball effect of what happens. So somebody posts something on Facebook. Oh, my God, this traffic. Take a current example. Lions Creek, we have a middle school. There's a logistical traffic nightmare. The reality is I have no control over what the school does. Can I help and facilitate and activate and connect? Absolutely. But I can't fix immediately. And it's hard because I think in modern day social media, we see too much negative, and we have an expectation that that things could be fixed immediately. And that's really hard to keep up with in government. Because I don't sit all day on my phone. I'm doing things like I'm sitting here for an hour. Somebody could have tagged me an hour ago having an expectation of something, and they're mad now
that you didn't respond immediately.
So I don't know how networking gets over that, because I think it's also managing expectations with modern day technology.
Yeah.
I don't have that answer.
I'm thinking about that. That's crazy.
Well, I'll flip it on you guys, and I know that's not the point of this. But look at this. You have clients,
right?
What if one of your clients was in crisis right now and needed you,
right?
Needed you right now, and you're sitting in an interview with me,
right?
What do you do?
Wow.
Well, they would call and somebody would pick up. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
We're out of business.
He's like, the phone's ringing right now.
But we just want to assure clients that we can take messages while we're doing this podcast.
We do have other folks.
So we have other people that pick up the phone. Just clarification.
Yeah.
No, but that's true.
But in government, that's just the hardest thing, because I think now, roll back the world 10 years, you didn't have immediate access to people. When my father, when I was growing up, went to work, I couldn't call my dad at work.
Oh, man, you're so right about that.
I couldn't call my dad. Came home at the end of the day, and he showed up at the house.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Like, if I don't call my wife when I'm getting in the car to head home, and then, like, halfway almost home, you need anything, honey? And then, I'm in the driveway. Like, that's what we live in the world now.
Do you think, though,
it's crazy,
that situation for especially someone like you is exacerbated because you are so accessible? And so, unlike I started out talking about, I would have never expected, even if there was social media, if I still lived in New York City, I could tag the mayor and no one would expect in New York City, but because it's a smaller town and people see you every day, people know that you're accessible and you have a really good community connection. Do you think it's exacerbated that expectation that It's been 10 minutes. How come the mayor hasn't called me back yet? Yeah.
I learned, my father taught me something years ago that I've always tried to abide by in business. Mm-hmm. If someone calls you, call them back the same day.
Yeah, 100%.
So, basic business tenet.
Yes.
Right? Someone calls you, call them back the same day. Give them the courtesy. And if you can't help them, tell them you're going to help them, but just give them a time frame to help them. So that just basic thing is just something I live by. Mm-hmm. If you call my law firm, you're going to get a call back today. If you call me at City Hall, well, it's going to roll over to my cell phone because I give out my cell phone number.
Yes,
I'm going to try to help you that same day. So maybe I have given myself an unrealistic expectation of trying to connect and help people. Maybe that's it. So I don't know the answer to that, and I think that's a struggle with all elected officials, the accessibility component, because I can't tell you if everyone has my mindset or not, but the reality is in the city we live in, I think that's the expectation I have for myself to do the job.
Yeah, I got you.
So we got to bring this home. I think maybe we can end on the fact, like, since we're on the topic of networking and talking, even accessing you. So as a Coconut Creek resident, right? So how are the most effective ways to utilize the mayor? Like, what are the best ways? Me being a resident, what's the best way to use your position?
Call me. And I say it because we advocate for everything. We advocate to the school board. We advocate for the county. We advocate for city programming. I mean, we're rolling out chess programs, poetry programs. You know, we're building programs. You know, people came recently and they want pickleball courts.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
It's a big thing. Yeah. We're going to be building pickleball courts.
Yeah.
So the reality is,
fun, man.
There's so many, and people don't really realize how many pots the city really runs. I mean, we're talking police, we're talking fire, we're talking your roads, we're talking your plumbing, we're talking your everything under the sun is really governed by the city. People don't understand that.
Right.
But it's a good question because I think it's different for everybody.
Exactly. And I think there's perceptions out there that, maybe there's no point to even bothering you with anything because you're so busy and you really can't help. You know, because sometimes, again, like, to Richard's point, like him growing up, you would never think you can even, hey, Mayor, is that you really?
Yeah.
So that's amazing that.
But I'll leave you with this thought because this is what I said my first career day to his son. All right, when I started. I don't even think he knows the story because I've never said it. I stand in front of a group of juniors and seniors in high school, okay? And they invite me as the mayor. They don't invite me as the lawyer.
Right.
And this is what I say, and we could wind down with this, and this is my closing thought. And I look at everybody and I go, who's the president of the United States? Almost every single hand goes up. Raise your hand. Does anyone in this room know who your United States senators are? Almost every room. Your son's hand was up for like everything. So we're not going there. Does anybody know who your House of Representatives member is? About half the hands. State representative? Anyone know who your state representative is? Hands are dwindling. Does anybody know who the mayor of the city is? Maybe 5 kids raise their hand out of 200. And I go, well, just so you know, I'm the mayor of the city. What if I told you I can affect your lives more than the president of the United States?
It's true. 100%.
They laughed. And I waited till the audience died down, and I go, let me tell you why I can. And I walk them through all the things that local government does for them. And at the end of that, you saw dumbfounded looks because they actually understood that your local elected officials affect your daily life more than the president of the United States.
Interesting.
It is. I mean, but that's incredible, though.
I just wanted to ask one more question. I know you said you're part of it, but as we're closing out, I just need to ask this question.
Now it's becoming our segment.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right.
I'm supposed to be interviewing somebody, but it's okay. It's at 12:30. We bumped it a little later.
Okay. Last question.
Yeah.
Last question. And with clear credit to President John F. Kennedy, we've asked kind of, what you can do for Coconut Creek or what you are doing for Coconut Creek. What can Coconut Creek residents do for the city?
Engage.
That's great.
Engage. And that's the answer. Engage. Yeah. The best thing we could ask for our residents is legitimate engagement. Feedback and engagement. Because what I think people think for too long is that the government works and you have to do what the government says. The government works for the people. Amen. And if the people tell us what they want, then we can really engage.
Awesome. And on that note,
you heard it there.
That I think that's a great way to bring us out. Thank you. I mean, appreciate you.
I appreciate
everything
you
that you do and
awesome,
spending time with us. And we'll put the information, Coconut Creek website, and all that great stuff up when we put.
And we're going to get that video up on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The butterfly.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a positive day, man.
The brand.
Take care, guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
You need of her.